To start the process again, I've got the vinyl glove followed by a cutting glove with the vinyl glove again. We're going to do fillets. And so with the fillets, what we want to do is get our weight before we cut open the bag. That way we're able to track our yield. And so I've got that as 6 pounds, 12 ounces. So I'm going to write it on my board. £7 pounds, 7.9 ounces. £8 pounds, 7 ounces. It's also easier if you're going to do multiple fillet tenderloins to use the big blue scale that we use for the ribeyes as well. I'm going to put this to the back. For the fillets, I'm going to use a little bit smaller knife than we had for the butcher knife. I'm going to cut the bags open again, just like we did with the ribeyes. This process will take a little bit more time and a little more patience. With the fillets, again, over the trash, so the liquid goes right in. With the fillets, we're going to cut a 4 ounce, an 8 ounce. We've got a mixed cut, which we use for our steak salad that will be measured out to a 6 ounce package. Then we will also have the chain, as well as any unusable part, fat, stuff that we wouldn't use in anything. We're still going to weigh everything at the end. That's why we have these pans laid out. And each one of those products will go in a separate pan. The way we're going to start out here is lay that fillet flat. The muscle's got 3 parts to it. We're going to put that to our left. And I'm going to pull down on this skin as much as I can. Separate it from the fillet, from the tenderloin, and just work my way down. I'm pulling that chain off. We're going to try to get as close to that loin as we can without tearing up the meat too bad. If you've got to, you can flip it over a little bit. You can use your knife. That way you can get that full head right there. This chain is going to go in its own pan. Now we've got the loin. It does have some fat on the underbelly. I'm not going to worry about that right now. If it's a large piece that I can peel with my hand, I'll pull it off. I'm going to throw it in the unusable bin. Flip it over. We see some fat here. I'm going to try to pull that off. It does have some meat, so I'm going to put that with the chain. That way when we clean that later, we won't have a total loss. Now, on the silver skin, each one of these tenderloins will have that silver skin. We're going to get our knife as close to that skin as possible. Our knife has to be very sharp, and I'm going to kind of lift up so you can kind of see me putting pressure on the silver skin. I'm going to go all the way across. The reason I'm lifting up is so I don't cut into that tenderloin. So I've separated from the loin. I'm going to lift up, and I'm putting pressure and going to the right. Now that I've done that, I've separated. You see I've got a little meat there, not too bad. I'm going to put pressure on the knife down on the loin. Now I'm going to lift up with that silver skin. Again, pressure with the knife and pull the silver skin. Right here, there's 3 muscles. One that goes here, one here, one here. That silver skin's going to go in there. I'm going to leave this here until I clean this joint out right here. Again, follow the same process with the silver skin. Pulled it right to that joint again. Again, any unusable parts will go in the unusable parts. Now that I've got that silver skin over there, I'm going to turn it on its side a little bit, and I'm going to try to get the silver skin here. That way we can get it as clean as possible until we get to that joint part there. I left that silver skin attached and it's sitting there. On this side right here, I'm not going to worry about cleaning this right now because as we cut, we're going to be able to trim and come back and get to this. Now, on this tail here, we're not going to be able to use a steak, grill a steak that's that flat. So what we want to do is find a good spot there, pull this off, and I'm going to throw that tail meat into my steak salad pan. Later on, I'll go back, I'll cut those into 1x4 die cubes, and we'll use those for our steak salad and bag them in 6-ounce portions. My scale is on. This is the waterproof scale. We want to go ahead and cut 4 ounces and 8 ounces out of each of those tails.
All right, now what we're doing is we're gonna slice into this joint to get the rest of that silver skin. So I want to put my knife up against the silver skin a little bit and separate that meat. And then I'm just going to pick that knife right through there and just right there. I'll grab the tip of that and I'm going to pull the tip, and again just using the knife, cutting back as much as I can. That was the silver skin there in that joint. There's still some in there. So slice down each side. Get your knife there again, and kind of like we did at the beginning. Push down and pull. Push down and pull. Into our unusable. Now that we've got them clean, what we want to do is cut those fillets. What we want to do is kind of squeeze that meat a little bit, get it tight. And I want to cut as many 4-ounce steaks as possible. So I'd say a 4-ounce steak is probably about 3 inches. I'm going to make one clean slice. I'm going to weigh on the scale, and I'm at 5.4. We can't use a steak that's 5.4. On the 4-ounce steaks, we can go a half ounce, a 1/4 ounce over, a 1/4 ounce under. I'm at 4.5. This part right here, I'm going to put into our steak salad. This I'm going to trim up and get it there. That will go into my 4-ounce fillet pile. Now the fillets are getting a little bit fatter, a little bit thicker. So I probably want to bring that down to 2 inches. 5.6. Now what I want to do is take off some of this fat on this underbelly. As lightly as possible, it'll come right off. There's not much, but that's why we save the fat on there, so we can trim and make that steak a little bit better for us. So I'm going to slice down that one direction again. Again, that piece will go in my steak salad. And now I've got my 4-ounce fillet to put with my 4-ounce fillets. For the 8-ounce, again, we're getting to thicker pieces of meat. Now for the 8-ounce, should be about the size of a baseball. So I'm going to slice that fat down on this side, which may help me if I got closer. I'm going to stick the knife in here, kind of like we did with the silver skin, just so I don't get a bunch of meat, and try to peel off some of that fat on the side. And I'm just scraping down. I'm not cutting, I'm just scraping down. Your knife should be sharp enough to poke, and just scrape it down. Once they're the 8s, we'll go in the 8-ounce pile, and we'll continue going through those 3 loins. Once we get up here to the 3-headed, the 3 muscles up at the top, I usually cut that loin off and keep these. This part at the tip, we're not going to be able to use and sell that for a steak, so try to make a nice clean cut that goes across all 3 of those muscles. That'll go in our steak salads. Now here, we probably want to try to get a couple 8 ounces. And we've got the 8-ounce steak out of those. You can also weigh it to see what the total weight is. That way you can guesstimate. This is only 14. I'm not going to be able to cut 4s out of this because it's too thick, and those 4s will be real thin. So I'm going to try my best to get an 8-ounce, followed by that 4. The loins here, we're going to try to get those 8 ounces. We want to watch those 4 ounces, that the meat's not too thick, so you can continue on with the rest of those fillets. We're going to cut this long chain in half. This bottom one's not going to have much meat. This top is going to have quite a bit of meat. So again, just like we did earlier, you may have to resharpen your knife if you've been trimming all morning. But we're just going to cut that meat right out of there. I'm turning my knife up so I can get off that fat that's on that underside there. And I'm just going to pull again. Here I'm going to stab that meat, and instead of pulling the silver skin, I'm going to pull that meat and hold down the fat. Now I've got unusable material here that I'll just add to my unusable material. This meat can be cleaned up a tiny bit. That can go in our steak salads. This other part, I may cut it again because it's a little bit long. And again, I'm just going to find a spot like we did with the silver skin earlier. I'm going to cut along the side, kind of pull as I'm slicing. It's a lot of nerve here and a lot of that silver skin. I may stab and pull down. It's a little time consuming. That's why we do this at the very end after we've cut our fillets. You see me pulling the silver skin. I got a lot of meat there, so what I'm probably going to do is hold the knife down, pull the silver skin off, and that meat slips. Now that we've finished cutting the fillets and ribeyes, what we will do now is notate the weights we have for our waste sheet. So we will put a pan, third pan, half pan, whatever we're using that day, depending on what the prep sheet says to cut. We will hit the blue button, tear. That will bring the total down to 0. These are the same exact pans. Is the only reason I'm switching them out like this. If you have different pans, different brands, they're not going to weigh the same. So this is the steak salad meat that we have. I haven't diced it, but I've got 3 pounds and 10 ounces of steak salad meat, so I'm going to notate that on my log. Unusable. That's all the trimmings we had off those fillets. 1 pound, 2.5 ounces. Our 8-ounce fillets came in at 7 pounds, 2.7. And our 4-ounce came in at 5 pounds, 1.3.